I was a really stupid kid. I'm not a very smart adult either.
This is Zartan, and you're listening to G.I. Joe, a real American headcast.
G.I. Joe, the Real American Headcast, is the code name for Aaron's daring, highly trained headcast. Its purpose? To podcast about G.I. Joe, Fighting Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
Fighting for freedom wherever there's trouble, we're letting the sea and
Hey, Joe's Brother Ed here. I'm here today with episode 62 of G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast. And before I bring out the other Joes, I do want to say that this episode is sponsored by Big Danny Cool and Sean Adams. Thank you both very much. A couple of our big spenders over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/headcastnetwork. Thank you very much, Big Danny Cool and Sean Adams. But let's go ahead and get started with the show today. I am not here alone. As usual, I've got some co-hosts. I looked into some rocks, see how I could find again, someone can spend Sunday afternoon talking to me about G.I. Joe. Can't have anything better going on in their life. So let's go ahead and bring in my guest. First up, we have Jarrod Ulbrich, the yard sale drawer artist person guy.
That's a prescription for danger.
AKA Death Probe.
All right. Seems like I was just here, man. I feel like the last time I was here, you were like redoing the room you were in. Like there was like freshly painted walls or something.
I was in the front room.
Yeah, because you're in a different room?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm in my office, my man land.
Okay.
Friday when we recorded the Bravo team, no one else was home. The kids were at school. The wife was at work. And so my laptop was already in the front room. So I just did it right there. So, yeah, then we're redoing our house because a couple months.
Okay. Well, it's great to be back. And I'm so happy to be over here taking a break from my my fandom podcast network where I have the Highlander Blood of Kings podcast, Couch Potato Theater. I also am a big Raiders fan, and I love G.I. Joe comics.
Wow, Raiders fan and G.I. Joe. What a nice segue. Thank you. That brings in my next guest, Kevin, Raider Nerd Reitzel.
Why am I even here if Jarrod is here? I mean, I don't understand.
I never know if Jarrod's going to show up or not. He's podcasting network empire. Those big long box crusade, bucks. Now, he's doing promos for Red Bull on my show. Look at this.
It gives me wings.
By the way, I'm wearing my Trouble Bubble T-shirt just for you today.
Oh, beautiful! I love that.
There you go. What's up? Yes.
It's my G.I. Joe button-up shirt that I got. So, and what do you have on? I can't see your. Is that Beavis and Butthead? Okay.
Yeah, Beavis and Butthead.
Very nice. Not quite as cool as ours, but it is what it is. I'm glad you guys could join me today. So, bring up the slideshow again that my good friend Kevin insists I use, and very wisely so.
Yes, always slideshow. Yes,
and I'm working on getting better on this. So, I do want to say my main background is courtesy of 3djoes.com. Same way I got the Art of G.I. Joe from. If you haven't bought that Art of G.I. Joe yet, I recommend going and see if they still have some copies. That's a fantastic book. But as we've talked about when I got it, keep in mind, Brad told me how heavy it is.
Brad got you too, huh? He got you. Yes. He neglected to mention that it's like the size of a computer from 1984.
Well, he did mention that. I just didn't take him seriously, I guess, because I got the box. Oh my God, what's in this brick? Oh, just a book. Jesus. Well, yeah, no, it's sitting in your table over here, and it's humongous. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you got some extra cash and you've got some sturdy desk to pet it on. It sounds some flimsy little table. You need a sturdy desk to put this son of a gun on.
He put me onto it when they price dropped it to like $99. So
yeah, he gave me a coupon before that for like $25 off or something, and then they did a sale was like $50 off or something.
Yeah, I picked it for $99. So yeah, if it's available, get it, people. It's awesome.
Very much so. Yeah, but just want to throw that out there. Okay, and we are here to talk about G.I. Joe issue 62. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, we are here normally the fourth Sunday of the month at 1:00 p.m. on YouTube, wherever it's at. I can never remember because I got a long title for it, and I haven't seen if I could shrink it down or not. But it is at youtube.com. I don't have it bookmarked.
Just trust us.
It's a YouTube. There'll be links on it. Go find it. I'll have it later. I've got a link later in the show. I've got the actual URL. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you want to see the slideshow and you want to see the shenanigans going on behind the scenes, go ahead and check us out. But I guess we can get started with the actual show, though, because we've done the preliminaries. We are here about G.I. Joe issue 62. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cover. First of all, the cover has a box train in the background. We have Stalker, Snow Job, and Quick Kick, along a few other prisoners. Stalker's costume's ripped. Poor Quick Kick lost his shirt. I mean, he's never without a shirt. Being led into barbed wire prison, so red skies in the background and a soldier with a gun watching as they come towards us. Jarrod, thoughts on this cover?
Is this a Zek only or is Beatty on this one too? I can't remember, to be honest.
Zek only. Well, yeah.
It's Zek and McLeod.
Oh, Zek and McLeod. Okay. Yep. I got you.
Comics. If you would have had your books, your complete G.I. Joe,
I know.
McLeod!
I tell you what, though.
Wrong
this
podcast.
was this reading for this episode, my friend, was the maiden voyage of me busting out the compendium. This is the first, it's in volume 2 of the compendium. Right. So I think it's
gorgeous.
Volume 2. This is just the satisfaction of cracking this bad boy and the crackle when I opened it. But yeah, so this podcast, this episode 62 is the very first thing I've ever read out of my new compendium.
Can I ask you to describe that for the listeners? Because that thing's really cool.
The compendium is a 4-volume set that Skybound just did. It's hardbound. It's very thick. Each volume is very thick, very heavy because it contains everything from Marvel G.I. Joe. And I mean everything.
It's got the silver edge lining.
Yeah, it's got the silver edge lining. I have the Joe ones, which are blue covers, and each features a different. Mine has Scarlet on volume 2. Nice. The blue covers feature Joes on them. The red covers features Cobras, and I think they might have gold lining. I'm not positive because I didn't order I almost ordered the red one, but I ordered the blue one because it had the Zek snake eyes drawing on one of them, and I was like, I
can't go wrong there.
So
$600 to get that set.
Much like the other books that we talked about before, the Art of G.I. Joe, it comes in like the heaviest thing ever, and it's huge, and it's awesome. And it has special missions, and I think it has even the Joe Transformers and the yearbooks, and Order of Battle. I think it's all in here.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, almost everything. I think they skipped some of the yearbook stuff.
I think they missed one yearbook because of the whole. Was that because of the whole Rocky Balboa thing?
Well, that was the Order of Battle.
Okay, my bust. Yeah.
I think they, from what I understand, they only had part of the first yearbook in there.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding, but again, it's going what people have said.
Yeah, and our good friend Steve Martin joined us in the chat that says he loves his compendium. Great item to have for all Joe lovers, and I couldn't agree more.
The chat. Yes, thank you for joining Steve and everyone else. Yes.
But anyway, cover 62.
Steve Martin, the man with 2 brains.
That's right.
Yes.
Get that cat out of here. This Zek and McLeod cover is really, really cool. This is one of those ones where it doesn't have a ton of action per se, but it conveys a lot of emotion, and it does convey the story. I just really like the facial features, the look, the furtive look from Stalker, the angry look from Snowjob, the in pain look from Quick Kick, and then the other guys coming off the train. It just really says, hey, things aren't looking up for our boys right now. And it's so well done. Not a bam pow cover, but a good emotional.
Very nice. And Kevin, do you have thoughts on this?
It's not one of those covers that stands out for me personally. I remember, it's weird because when I've been doing these podcasts with you, I've been revisiting these for like the longest time. So they're kind of like reading them for the first time again. And I was trying to remember, like, this story arc lasted through a few episodes and a special missions, and I had forgotten about that. But what I do like about this cover, though, is that it's one of those, like, it's a scene right out of the comic. We've talked about the differences between the more abstract ones, obviously, and then the ones that just like they're an additional scene that we see in the panels, and that's where this one fits in. And honestly, when I was looking at the cover between the scenes and stuff, I felt the cover was done a lot better than the actual panels that were done in the actual book itself. But it also reminds me too of, like, I always felt, as we're reading this arc of the comic too, I love it when we get Stalker on a cover. I love when we get Stalker at any time. Stalker is one of my favorite Joes, and I always feel like was one of the guys that kind of got passed over for being like in command of Joes a lot more often than I'd like to see. But this one I do like, because you get a really, really interesting expression on Stalker's face in this.
Yeah. And also in the chat, we have Heinz Koch joining us. He says, "Hi, everyone." Hey, Heinz, glad you could join us.
What's up, Heinz?
What up, Heinz?
So again, if you're watching, feel free to throw say hi in the chat and throw your thoughts in the cover. Give me some ratings in the cover, and I'll place it on there also. And again, if we'll listen to the podcast itself later on, join us on the 4th Sunday of the month as we do this live, and you can join in the fun. Very nice.
What do you think of the cover?
Thank you, Kevin. As far as the cover, yeah, you guys have said it's a great cover. As it's got that beautiful red sky in the background. So yeah, we got Stalker in chains, and that look on Stalker's face, you have to love. He's got that look on his face saying, put those guns down, or give me half a second without these chains. I'll show you guys something. He's about ready to kick some ass. It's just, if it wasn't for his teammates being injured, I don't know if he'd be taking like he is. But no, it's a beautiful cover. You got the smoke from the train. It's just a very well done. Yeah, like I say, it's not action packed, as Jarrod had said, but it does have. It shows you the gravity of the situation, and it's just a beautiful cover. And again, it's one, like I talked about last month and over on Bravo Team this last time. When I think of G.I. Joe, this is one of the covers I think about. Partly because, as I said previously, I just started the book several months before this. So this is my big first major story arc of G.I. Joe. So that's also makes it reminiscent. Makes it very memorable to me. But it's just a great cover, just the seriousness of the situation they're in. So let's get some ratings on this. Jarrod, 1 to 5 Yo Joe Colas. You know how it works. 1 means it sucks. 3 means it's a decent cover. And 5 is like that one behind our buddy Kevin there. You want to hang on the wall.
No, that was like 11,000 something. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. Jarrod, 1 to 5 Yo Joe Colas.
I will take advantage of my current location and give it 4.5 Yo Joe Colas.
Ooh, very nice. 4 point. Ooh, halvesies. I like that. We won't tell Delvin.
Yeah, I feel weird about it, but that's where I'm going to go.
Kevin, ratings on this cover, 1 to 5 Yo Joe Colas.
I'm going to give it a 3. 3 Yo Joe Colas. It's better than average, but it's not great, at least in my G.I. Joe cover fandom. Not like the next one that's going to be coming up. Just going to tease that right now.
It's a Zek. You know that, right? It's a Zek.
Yeah, I know that. I know.
4, Kevin. They started.
Yeah, I think Zek slept in on this one a little bit. I'm just saying. So.
Ooh.
Man.
Okay, how do we move?
Did you say, hold on, did you say Zek cover started 4?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll give it a 3.5 then. Give it a half more point.
I campaigned for a small bump. I'll take it.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's like when the episode ago when Jarrod wasn't on, I knew he gave it at least a 4 because it was that cover. So got to be at least a 4. And myself, I'm going to join Jarrod and give it a 4.5. almost a 5. Yeah, I'll give it a 4.5, but it is a great cover in my opinion. And Steve Martin over the chat chimes in. He says he gives it a 4.5 for Stalker's bottled up rage expression alone. Yes, very much so. Nice. So that is the cover. Let's talk about the actual comic. Let's get some stats on this. As I said, this is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 62. The cover date, August of 1987. To buy this on sale, you had to be around May the 12th of 1987. You also had to have $1 in your pocket. It cost $1 to buy this.
$1? Holy crap.
$1, yes, one whole
That's
dollar. 4
expensive.
Chinese quarters. I remember we thought, wow, $1. These things are getting too expensive.
Canada gets hosed. They got to spend a quarter more.
Yeah, Canada always gets hosed. I'm not going to get into that, though. But the writer on this was Larry Hama. The penciler, as we talked about previously before the show, was William Johnson and Arvell M. Jones. The inker was Andy Muschinsky. The letterer, Joseph Rosen. Colorist, Bob Sharon. And the cover, as we were talking about, was Mike Zeck and Bob McLeod. And the editor of this was Bob Harris. And the synopsis this is from marvel.fandom.com. In Barovia, Quick Kick, Stalker, and Snowjob are sentenced to life in prison. The other Joes watch on TV and are frustrated that they cannot rescue their teammates. Meanwhile, on the train carrying the prisoners to the gulag, Stalker defends his fellow prisoners from attacks by other inmates, including the looting of Snowjob's shoes. In Denver, Billy discovers that Jinx is related to Storm Shadow when the Blind Master shows him an old photo of the Rashikagi clan. The Blind Master gives Jinx his car keys, and she and Billy leave for San Francisco, unaware that Raptor is watching them. In Utah, Roadblock and Leatherneck argue about the rescue operation for their in-prison teammates. They're overheard by other Joes in the pit. In Barovia, the prisoners are taken to the gulag, and Stalker remains determined to escape despite warnings from the other inmates. In San Francisco, Jinx and Billy arrive at the Defense Language Center, unaware of Raptor surveillance. So that is the synopsis for G.I. Joe 62. Kevin, do you have thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, one of the things that stand out for me is I love how Stalker, being the leader that he is able to basically kind of stop a riot inside the prison train car as they're on their way to the gulag there, and kind of say, hey, you can't mess with us, but you know what, we're not going to be dicks about it. When the food comes is thrown in, was it 2 loaves of bread, stale bread, and a pail of water? I think that's all that there was. I love the fact that he makes sure everyone gets a portion of it, and it's about being about respect, basically, too. The other little thing that kind of stood out with me was Grunt wanting to get back into the game. And I love that picture that he has in there, of course, with Stalker and Snake Eyes. And then the panel on the bottom right of this page 6, I think it zooms in on Stalker. And I think that's a really, really cool shout out there too. The whole goulash thing was interesting, as this story arc is spanning through these episodes or these issues, including in the special missions that we spoke about earlier with Outback escaping. And that Outback is met with a little bit of, anger, I guess, by one of the members of the Joe team for not, coming back alone and not really understanding the whole situation. I thought was interesting. But the thing that I actually really like best about this issue is the B plot, where we learn, the training with Billy and Jinx, and you get that mysterious picture of the entire clan there. And it's said here in the panel with the blind match saying the blurred fellow on the end is Onahashi's assistant and the adept ninjutsu practitioner. His style was that of now extinct Koga clan. Some people say that the Kogas are just hiding. For some strange reason, this face is blurred in every known photograph. And then points out that's me in the middle when I was 8, and that's what Jinx is saying there. And they give the row of who's in there. I would just love like a full detailed picture of this clan, like as a poster with the detail, but then you have the one face blurred out in more detail, if that makes sense. That would be really, really cool. And what I'd like to actually say, meaning that, is Jarrod, get on that.
Okay, all right. Hey, I have a question for you guys who know, because as I mentioned on the show before, I kind of, this is about when I was phasing out of Joe. So from here forward, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. Is the fuzzy phased out guy? Is that Zertin? Is that Zertin?
I think so, but I don't remember, to be perfully honest.
My best guess was like, that's got to be Zartan.
That's what I thought too, but I don't know, and I didn't Google it because I don't want to Google it. I want to kind of revisit this when the issues come by for the podcast. So
I'm pretty sure I remember the answer to this one.
All right, just leave us in the dark if you want.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this gets answered.
So are all the birds pooping in his car? Raptor's car.
He's got newspaper like all.
Yeah, that was my first thought. I'm like, because I think he mentions that they're getting sick in the car. I'm like, so they're throwing up and shitting in your car? What's up?
Boy loves his birds. I gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah. I like the subtle touch on Fred's dirty, muddy shoes from supposedly digging up a shallow grave for the deceased Cobra commander. So yeah, but those are my initial thoughts on the issue.
Jarrod, do you have thoughts on this issue?
I do. It according to what Kevin said, it sounds fantastic.
You should have read it.
I probably should have read it.
I guess I should have let you know you should have read this one, but
never gets old. Never
misses an opportunity.
Okay,
yeah, Kevin did a pretty good cover on what's good about it. I will just underscore a couple of things. When Outback comes back, and as Kevin said, it's Leatherneck who gives him a bunch of crap about how come you're here and they're not here. You can imagine how he would feel. And I thought that was a good continuity of character. Larry wrote him the same way in that special missions where Lifeline and him, Lifeline's dangling from the tree on the cover. Because he was the one that was like, for the love of God, Lifeline, be helpful. Like, he's very simple-minded and singular of focus, which in some ways is not good, but in some ways, he's a Marine, man. He's a United States Marine, and that's kind of what they do, They're kind of hardcore, single focus. Right. And so I just was like impressed. I was like, that he's really writing him in the same voice that he wrote him in special missions. But I mean, that's the benefit of having Larry write all the characters, right? Yep. So I just thought that was really neat. I will just underline that I agree with Kevin once again. I really like bringing Grunt in for the hey, I'm not really a Joe anymore. So if you need any, wink, wink, a little, I got you covered. Be interesting to see if they're going somewhere with that. I don't remember if they do or not. So I'd like to.
And I do like the fact he's like, if it's off the books, I can be helpful because,
right.
I'm not a Joe.
Yeah. I'm just a guy.
I'm just an ordinary guy willing to, kick some butt. So.
And they tell him no, and he slams the phone down, and he just looks at that picture of Stalker, and he's like, and you can tell his wheels are turned, and like, I'm not going to be left out on this.
Yep.
So we'll see. I also there's no possible way you guys could have known this, but this was fascinating to me as I'm reading 62 for your show. Later on Wednesday, we're recording a couple episodes of G.I. Joe Chronicles of the Long Box Crusade, and one of which is for the Devil's Due series. We're now in the America's Elite run, and we're about to do issue number 9. And how does that relate to this, you might ask? America's Elite from 2006? Like, how does it relate to this issue? Well, this one I thought was cool because it had the Fred in it. You know how they made kind of use of these Fred guys that they had here, there, and everywhere back in the 80s. The issue 9 is it's just revealed. It's a really cool story arc where there's this Fred that the Cobra commander put in South America to like make bats. That was like his job. Go make bats in South America. And they promptly forgot about him. He's been down there slowly losing his mind. He's making these really bizarre bats. And that somehow he got his hands on a couple of nuclear missiles. And like, he's like this hardcore, like a big problem now. And I was like, what a cool concept that you take one of these Freds and by sheer coincidence here, I'll go for visual for those of you watching. What I'm reading on my nightstand right now is No Surrender, My 30-Year War by Hiro Onoda, which is the story of the guy. There's a couple guys, but this is like the main guy everybody talks about, who was never told World War II was over.
I remember that guy.
Yeah. They found him on in the Philippines. Anyway, in one of those islands in the 70s. He'd been fighting for an extra 30 years and had no idea the war was over. And so it's weird that I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, there's a Fred and he's doing the undercover Fred stuff. And I'm reading at the same time reading 9 where there's a Fred who's become a big problem because they forgot about him and he's just lost his mind. And it really kind of ties into what it's weird how they all tied in together.
It's funny that jogs a memory of a Star Wars book. I don't know if you remember around the early 2000s, they had the Young Jedi novels that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And they were training on Yavin, after the Battle of Yavin. And the kids came across a TIE fighter that had escaped the original destruction of the Death Star, and he was marooned on Yavin, and he didn't know what was going on with the galactic conflict. So it reminded me of that.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, it's that same thing.
that.
But anyway, I took as far afield. I agree with Kevin that
Yeah.
the Jinx and Billy stuff was pretty cool. And of course, I think the heart of the story is Stalker. Telling guys, you don't ever lose your humanity. You don't lose it, because once you've lost it, then you're lost. Period.
Right.
And it was a powerful storytelling stuff. And I love how Stalker's just tough enough to be that guy to stand in front of a bunch of hungry other dudes and be like, well, come on then. You think you can beat me? I was like, this dude fought a crocodile with nothing but a knife back in he's not afraid of nothing. So anyway, I'll shut up and let Aaron talk.
And real quick, back to the whole raptor and bird thing. Steve says Raptor's car is ground zero for the bird flu.
Raptor, that should be one of Raptor's powers. He should be immune to everything. Just because he
well
so
said.
time.
Yes. That's
very nice.
That's funny.
Like
That's why eggs are so expensive, because of Raptor.
Freaking Raptor.
Thanks, Raptor. That last issue, I put the whole issue in here, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to put a few panels this month. I had to put most of the issue in here because I thought it was a great issue. Yeah, they starts out with Stalker holding up his two companions in front of the tribunal, saying, you guys are guilty of this, and Stalker, well, about spitting on the sidewalk and adding this and that while you're at it. What the hell? It just still, he's captured in a foreign country, being sentenced to 5 life sentences, and he's still like, and what's your point? He's still just very defiant, and much like he was on that cover of defiance in his face. I love that. Again, we have the I like here where there people are protesting the dirty, nasty Americans in the country, and no, this isn't a paid protest, or isn't government founded or anything. And there's this one guy, he's like, you're not protesting loud enough. I love that.
You better get to that protesting.
No, this is completely random. The citizens are doing it on their own. The signs look like they're made by factory and
mass produced.
Yeah,
he's told like decry harder or something like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that term. I'm like, wait, decry? What?
Yeah, decry. Yes, condemn. Really.
Yes,
synonymous.
And then as Kevin was talking about, we get the Joes watching it on TV, and they're like, well, "What are we gonna go get them?" Well, we're not. About this time, the helicopter shows up delivering Outback, and like we're talking about, Leathernecks just giving Outback. It's kind of funny, 4 Joes come in, 1 comes back, and Outback's like,
okay, can I ask you guys a question? Do you think Leatherneck, his reaction was justified, or do you think he was overreacting?
Well, I think he's in character. As I mentioned, that's how Larry wrote him back in the special mission.
I've been thinking about that, and I go back and forth, a little bit of both.
Absolutely.
I think he was out of line and he was overblowing it, but as Jarrod said, that's Leatherneck's character. That's who he is. He's a Marine. He's no man left behind. No matter, even if he was ordered, he still should have, stayed behind and did something.
He's definitely the mouthpiece for what everyone is thinking.
Right. Because, you can tell the looks on most of their faces. They're disgusted with them. They don't, And Outback's he's just, like a duck. No, no water in my back. He's just walking on through like, I'm going to go sack out for a little bit. It's been a long day. And then, that page there with Leatherneck getting his face, and he pulls a knife out onto Leatherneck. He's like, what do you want? Leave me alone. I love that. Just Leatherneck's in his face. Outback's trying to get some rest after, because again, Outback's been through some shit.
Right.
I mean, he first the whole,
he's like, I'm not having it, Leatherneck.
Yeah, no one's more angry about the situation than Outback is right now. He's more angry than everybody.
Isn't showing it like Leatherneck is, but I do like it. He pulls that knife out and just pets up to Leatherneck's neck, and he's like, you know what? Back off.
He's so mad the letters fell off of his shirt.
Yeah, I noticed. There
it just said back.
And again, Steve chimes in from the chat, being a jarhead and quoting Sergeant Slaughter, we all go home or nobody goes home.
That's exactly what I thought. Like, if you go out with a group, like he did with 4 guys, and you were the only one that comes back, like, you better be the survivor. As in everybody got killed, which is hard enough. But if
Right.
you come back and they're still alive and on TV, I wouldn't even show up to my unit. I would go hide out forever.
But again, an Outback
Just
has to
no
come
way.
back to relay the information, what he knows about what's going on. And so and again, like they talk about, his commanding officer told him to go and get that information back. And unlike when they talk about here, when Stalker was taken out of action when they're trying to rescue Snake Eyes, and Snake Eyes stayed behind to make sure they all got out. Stalker was incapacitated, and Snake Eyes was next in line to order him to leave. So totally different situations. And yeah, I understand the whole no man left behind, but
I really think that if it was Hawk that told him to go back and rejoin, whoever told him to go back and rejoin the unit did not do him any favors. I would have been like, you just stay in quarantine until this is done, or if we need you, because they had to know when he got back this was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, then we talked about, Grunt calling and talking, and I like that picture of Snake Eyes, Grunt, Clutch, and Stalker on his desk. He's like we talked about, he's like, if there's a rescue mission, let me know. I'm not actually in the military anymore, so I know what I'm doing. But you know what? If I get caught, it can't come back on the government. And I'm like, Roadblock's all, we'll have to get back. There's no rescue mission plan. I've got to get back to you. There's shit going on here. As he's watching Outback with his knife.
Outback's about to stab Leatherneck.
It's fantastic. He's like, I've got to go. Well, I'll get with you later. I've got to go. I've got to stop someone from being killed over here. And that dude, I think it was Kevin mentioned that close up there of the picture of he's looking at, and the close up on Stalker. Beautiful. Those last 4 panels, there's no words, but just you can tell the way he's looking at the picture, and then we get that close up of Stalker. It's a very sentimental, very thought provoking, images there. I love that. Again, back like we talked about, we have Stalker. He's a prisoner. He's been beaten, but he still doesn't want to lose humanity, and that's what he's telling him, that this whole fight on the train, where he knocks out the guard, or not the guard, the other guy that's trying to steal the boots. And he says, everyone, they bring the food in. He's like, everyone gets food. He's like, how about the unconscious one and your weak friends? He's like, no, everyone gets a portion. And I like how he's, okay, he points to one guy, you hand out the food. If it's not equal, they'll make you pay. he's like they'll make you pay if you don't do it right. So do it. And then, we talked about Fred. Again, someone brought out, I brought this image up. I pulled this a little closer. I love the detail of the mud and the dirt on Fred's pants and shoes, showing they were, they out there burying Cobra Commander, and apparently very deep, because we never hear from Cobra Commander again.
Yep, never again.
But we all the birds in the back of Raptor's car. And Raptor, he doesn't have his full Raptor uniform on. He's got the wings and all that, but he's playing into the bit. He's still not wearing a shirt. I mean, normally he doesn't wear a shirt because his costume, you got the wings. Yeah, he couldn't put a shirt on under it. That's the way it's made, okay? But he's got the wings and the helmet off, but he's still, what? I'm not wearing a shirt. If Dr. Mindbender can do without it, if Quick Kick can do without it, I'm not wearing a shirt.
Commitment. I mean, he worked out. He looks good,
Oh, yeah, no, he's, for an accountant, he's pretty buffed.
So, flaunt it.
I love when he's following Billy and Jinx, and they lose them, and that look on his face there on the top of that panel I got on the screen. I love that look on his face, just the way the lighting hits it. I think it's a very well done panel. Just the lighting highlighting his face and shadows, and
I think he's just shoving a flashlight up his nose there. I don't know. or there's spilt milk. I can't tell which one's which.
Maybe. Possibly. But again, he does what he does. He parks, he loses them, they get away from him. So instead of trying to chase them down, he sends his birds after him, because that's kind of his thing. So I do love that he sticks to the bit. Again, when we talked about their Leatherneck and Roadblock are arguing about it, and these guys come up from both, hey, keep it down. We can hear you down level 3, which lets us know that they're rebuilding the pit. They're digging the pit out or whatever. So we're going to have a new pit at some point.
Guarantee you it's not going to be as cool as any Cobra Fortress ever.
It's not going to be Cobra logos all over it and snake motif. No, definitely. It's not going to be on some mountainside. But and like it ends there, Billy and Jinx go into the language learning center, and she's basically, it's not a language center, it's just a cover for G.I. Joe, whatever. And Raptor is, I found you. I just love that look on his face there. He's got the birds circling behind him. Great issue. So that is G.I. Joe. Yeah, great. I love that. It was fantastic. And like I said, I tried to limit the pages I took of screenshots this time instead of everything, but I got most of the pages in there anyway, just because there's almost every page to talk about, in my opinion. Next up, we have
The Real American Hero.
this is a Joe or Cobra or someone else in the book that you thought did especially well or deserves special shout out. And again, if people in the chat that's watching this, if you guys have a Real American Hero, feel free to throw it in the chat and I'll play it or I'll display it on there also. Jarrod, do you have a Real American Hero for this issue?
I am gonna leave Stalker for somebody else. I want somebody here to take Stalker. Dang it!
I know how much you like Stalker. Go ahead and take Stalker, man.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, I will take Stalker then because
Stalker's one of your favorite shows, right?
Top, I was excited to see Beachhead in this because he's my number one, but he didn't have any lines. And Stalker is 2 or 3. He's in my top 3. You know, Snake Eyes. Anyway, yeah, you gotta give it to Stalker. I mean, he's absolutely being the leader that I love him to be. I'm on record many times saying I'm kind of sad that Duke showed up because they were like, let's make Duke the field commander, and I was like, we already have a great field commander. Like,
yeah, but he's not a pretty white boy with blonde hair.
Yeah, you said it. I didn't.
I'll say it.
That is the one. Now that we're on record, that is the one. Like, I give GI Joe a lot of credit for its diversity and its cast and all that. But that one decision really felt like, hey, we need a corn-fed white boy to lead the team. Like, you've got a great leader already. Like, you have him and you have Hawk already. Like, why do we need Duke? Like, I never got it. Duke has grown on me over the years, but I don't want to go too deep into politics, but that was the one decision Joe ever made that I was like, I don't know, guys.
I like Duke, but yeah, Stalker, in my opinion, is a much better.
Yeah, I will defend GI Joe and Larry to my dying breath on a lot of stuff, but that one I'm just like, I wouldn't. If I was the defense attorney for that case, I just wouldn't show up to court. Like, nothing. Anyways, I love Stalker. He's doing Stalker things here. He's being tough. He's being a leader. He's being inspirational. I feel like it's gonna go a long way. So yeah, gotta go Stalker.
And Kevin,
mine's not. I was gonna look at doing Stalker, but going back over the book though, I know he didn't have a lot of panels, he didn't have a lot of action, but his intention I felt deserves the Real American Hero, and that's Grunt worrying about his buddy, being one of the original Joes, and wanting to go back and help his friend. And I actually thought that would have been a cool little side story if he were to get back into action. I don't remember if he does, so forgive me if that's what happens, because I don't remember that happening, to be honest with you. But I thought that was really cool of him wanting to do that. And also, too, Grunt was my first GI Joe action figure before the swivel arm battle grip, when all the thumbs on all the figures broke, back in those days. And Grunt was my first ever GI Joe, so I have a special place in my heart for Grunt. So I'm going to give it to Grunt.
That's who I was going to give it to. I was like, I thought Kevin would want Stalker.
You and I are on the same. Are we sharing a brain today?
Apparently we are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brad's got his own brain because he's got the big one. But I mean, you and I are sharing one. So yeah.
Yeah, no. And again, I know the answer to that question also, but we'll hold off for the future for that one on whether or not Grunt makes a reappearance.
Well, they kind of keep dropping seeds with him because he was at the track with that real pretty girl last episode I was on. Like, it's like there's Grunt seeds are being planted.
And again, I don't want to put any spoilers because it happens down the road, but yeah, her name was Lola, and there's a reason
she was a showgirl. Wait, I'm just quoting lyrics from songs.
Yeah, I know. There's the reason I remember her name, and we'll get to that in the future. But and real quick before I give mine, Steve Martin, he gave us his Real American Hero. The Real American Hero is the unknown character, the guy who's responsible for cleaning out Raptor's car.
When he rolls up in the little detail shot, that guy's like, damn it.
God, the bird guy's back.
The bird guy's back again.
Man. For the Bravo team we just did. But yeah, so again, there's several great choices, and I went through several of them. Grunt's a great choice. I was going to pick Stalker, but I knew someone was going to pick Stalker. Probably Jarrod, but I wasn't sure. But so I went, and again, I kind of also from the special missions we just talked about a couple of days ago in real time, I gave mine to Outback. Again, he survived, running from these, enemy soldiers. he got back, and instead of a hero's welcome, if you will, hey, you're back, good job in getting out of there, he's getting crap from all his teammates because he came back. So, and again, other than pulling a knife on Leatherneck, who's in his face, I thought he took it rather stoically. I mean, he could have, no, it's been why I was told to do this and this happened.
He had to put up with Leatherneck. So there you go.
Yeah, but yeah, he's like, you know what? I can't talk about it. I'm back. I'm going to sack out. So again, just out back. Yeah, other than losing lettering on his shirt, he came through it relatively unscathed. So But yeah, no, I'm giving mine to Outback because again, I thought he did excellent in the special missions, and we don't do this for that show, so I'm going to give it to Outback. Then I figured someone on here would give it to Stalker, looking at Jarrod, and Grunt's another one that I'm like, he's up in the top 3 in my opinion. So, and again, I didn't even think about the poor sap that's cleaning out Raptor's car. That's definitely a real American hero. But so the next segment is the favorite page of art. Again, as I've said, I've stolen this from better shows than mine. If you have any page of art out of the book, which would you take? I've talked to you guys ahead of time, so let's go and take a look at what they chose. Jarrod, would you like to talk about your page?
Yeah, I kind of copped out just with the opening splash page just because it has, Stalker, big fan. I like Quick Kick a lot. I like Sojo. I like all these Joes. I like that it shows, Stalker being the strength of the group, sort of literally and figuratively in the same moment. Like, it's just a good table setter for what's going on in the issue. I like the way it's drawn, and it's got my boy Stalker in it front and center. So there you go.
Very nice. And for mine's next. Yes, mine's next, page 5. Again, as I talked about previously, there's a lot of great pages in this book. I just love that Leatherneck's up in Outback's face, and Outback just quickly pulls that knife underneath his pillow, like, leave me alone, buddy. I just thought that was a fantastic page, just the way it's drawn out. So I think it's page 5 is mine, where Outback is.
That is a good one. I love how it shows how quickly he brought the knife out.
Yes,
it looked like he had it behind him in the pillow.
Yeah,
you can see the trail of where the knife originated from.
I love close, you can kind of see it in his hand there on the pedal. Yeah. But yeah, they don't really draw attention to it. But yeah, he just pulls it out like, get out of my face. So that's mine. And Kevin, you sent me one also. You sent me 2 pages.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which one at the time I was going to choose, but I've decided the one on the right, which actually is, that number 10. And that shows that original picture of the clan. By the way, Jarrod, are you working on that? Still, have you started that yet?
Almost done here.
Okay, good. Just want to let you know. But yeah, I love the idea that all these guys got together for a picture, and if that blurred person is Zartan, it's going to be interesting. But it's like one of the rarest things in GI Joe to see all of these guys together in one picture. I think that it's like a class picture of the ninjas. It's very cool. So yeah.
And I like when the blind master pulls it out. He's got it upside down at first, and Jinx has to go.
Yes.
Look at her face. It's upside down again. Here you go.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, Jinx, hot.
Yes.
Just gonna say that right now. Yeah.
Yep.
I would say you're wrong, but you're not. So
I'm gonna translate for Jarrod. Hot damn.
Very nice. Yes. So all great choices. Yeah, like I said, it was kind of hard to choose this issue because there was a lot of great pages in this book. Like I say, I think I'm spoiling anything, probably not, but this entire run, as I've said, is a great run of the series. So it's fantastic. So time to move on to Postbox the Pit. So looking at Postbox the Pit, first up, I was going to get a sound bite, but I didn't get around to it. We got run behind today. I'm going to play sound from Ghostbusters where Janine's hitting the buzzer. We've got one. I actually got an email. Haven't had one of those in a while. Last night I was going to my son's house to play D&D, and I was checking my phone to see if there was anything from Jarrod about which page you wanted or whatever. And I checked my email, and I had an email from Library Blues.
Woohoo!
He says, listening on a delay, catching up, so maybe it's already been brought up. But during this episode, you guys talked about the animated G.I. Joe and Transformers never having a crossover episode. He says they kind of did in season 3, episode 23, entitled Only Human, the original 80s Transformers TV show. After the time jump following the film, Chris Latta who played a number of roles on there like Starscream, played a mysterious terrorist named Old Snake. There are allusions to Cobra. Then in the final scene, he gives the Cobra battle cry. And yeah, I do remember that. I don't think we brought it up, but I do remember that. But it wasn't an official crossover, so that's why we didn't really bring that up. But yes, I do like that episode of Transformers. And yeah, he's got kind of the battle helmet on, but he's got like a fedora, a big hat over it, and a trench coat. And as he walks away, I don't know if you guys saw that episode of Transformers. He walks away and he's like, Cobra. I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, so yes, it was a kind of an unofficial crossover, but they did cross over the one time. Over on Facebook, these are the people that mentioned or otherwise did something I wanted to bring attention to. Michael Long, he posted here recently the Cold Slither song, which will be coming up here in a couple episodes.
Cold Slither! Yeah.
Baron for the Blood. Oh, speaking of Cold Slither, I may actually be able to get the writer of that episode on the show. I was talking to him on Facebook. So
very cool.
Yeah, I mentioned, he goes, yeah, no, let me know when you guys get there. And I'll come on. So as long as he's free, we'll get to that here in a couple of months. We may have a special guest. And I'll make sure he talks over Jarrod. Oh.
Solid planning.
Baron for the Blood. Jim Marshall. Again, ex-Joe from the show that does his own G.I. Joe stuff. Pat Sampson. Peppy Pat himself. James Von Werner. Kevin, what's this? Rachel, right? Kevin Wright. Yes, Kevin Wright. He's always posting things on Facebook, different either comments or pictures. And again, as I've said these before, I'll say it again. I love when he posts his cosplay pictures on there. I just love all the costumes you dress up in, Kevin. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Good times, man.
There's also Eric Smith, the game master from the G.I. Joe role-playing game I'm on, Joe Jackson, and Lily Cohen. Lily's always posting links whenever Hasbro puts things up for sale. So
Joe Jackson, like his music.
Yes. No, he's got some good music. Yeah, can't speak.
Does he have shoes or is he no shoes? This Joe Jackson.
I haven't asked him if he got shoes or not.
Okay.
I may have to check and see.
Old-timey baseball jokes doing anything for anybody?
People under 50 probably, what the hell are you talking about?
What is he talking about?
Yeah, if he is shoeless Joe Jackson, I might see about sending him up here. But anyway, yeah, I guess let's bring these comments back to the 80s. Over on Patreon. Again, I don't do much of anything on X or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, and Instagram. I haven't gotten Blue Sky yet, as we talked about last time. Maybe one of these days I'll get Blue Sky, just ignore it also. But Patreon, we've got Gene Hendricks, fellow podcaster and all-around great guy, Bill Bear, Cosplay Dad, and then as mentioned at the top of the show, the big Patreons is Sean Adams and Big Danny Cool. So thank you guys very much.
I have yet to receive a check from all the appearances I've done on the show, just so you know.
It's in the mail.
Okay.
It's in the mail. Trust me.
You get paid?
Don't tell him he doesn't. But yes, you can reach us on Facebook.com/group/GI Joe, X.com at GI Joe Headcast, Patreon.com at Headcast Network, Instagram.com/Headcast Network, Twitch.tv/Brotherhead69, because I have been going on streaming these on Twitch also.
69, dude.
69, dude. And GI Joe at headspeaks.com. So let's move on to the next part, the Soldier of the Month. This is a Joe that's done something either for the show, for G.I. Joe in general, or again, I as I said before, I'm not beyond bribery. This month, the Soldier of the Month is the aforementioned Joe Jackson. The other day, he sent me a message letting me know that Hasbro dropped some new releases because I was busy working, so I didn't realize it. And I was able to get the Snake Armor, Footloose, and Law & Order pre-ordered. So thank you very much, Joe, for sending me that message and letting me know about that. And Joe Jackson, shoes or not, you are the Soldier of the Month. To our Soldier of the Month from all of us here at G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, in the Headcast Studios, we salute you. So that is the Soldier of the Month, and that is Postbox the Pit. Again, if you want to have a message right on the air, send me an email, leave a message on Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, all of those. You can find me at G.I. Joe, Real American Headcast. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the cartoon.
G.I. Joe will return after these messages.
Hello there, this is Jarrod Albrick, aka The Yard Sale Artist, with a quick podcast promo for my show, Comics with Normies. Here's how the show works. Using my yard sailing skills, I acquire a random comic book from a yard sale. I then give said random comic to a normie. A normie being a person who doesn't normally read comic books. Then, on the show, I'll sit down with the normie to discuss the issue, get a real outsider's point of view, and see what some of the comics that we love, and maybe not love so much, seem like to those normal folks we see walking around on the streets each day. It should be a fun perspective and good for a few laughs. You can check out the Comics with Normies podcast, along with some other fun-filled podcasts from White Rocket Entertainment, on iTunes and at whiterocket.podbean.com. And feel free to join the show using the Twitter handle at Normies Podcast or on Facebook at Comics with Normies. Once again, you can find Comics with Normies on iTunes and at whiterocket.podbean.com. We'll see you there.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville Show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Hey, Jarrod, I have a question.
What's up?
Well, I've been a part of the Long Box Crusade for about a year and a half now.
Yeah? No, that's not a question, man.
I know, I'm getting to it. That was called Build Up. Like I was saying, I've been with the Long Box Crusade and I have gone out and represented the show faithfully.
That's still not a question.
I'm still building up. I was wondering, could I be a part of the official promo? There's this great promo for the podcast that airs across podcast land, and it has Pat Sampson, the founder of the show, you, the art cell artist, and your brother Jason, aka Weasel Skull. But it doesn't have me, Delvin Williams, the Dark Web. Could you ask the guys if they would let me be a part of the promotion, since you were the one who invited me onto the show?
Well, not to be a Mr. Quick to correct, but that was at least 2 questions. Still, I guess I'll ask. Let me go talk to the guys and you stay here.
Okay, great. Thanks, man.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up, Jarrod?
What's up, Jarrod?
I have a question. Delvin's been with us for like a year and a half.
That's not a question.
Yeah, I know. It's called Build Up. Hey, can we finally include him on the promo? It's the least we can do. He doesn't know that we're getting paid yet.
And he never will. I mean, we need him? After all, we already have the Longbox Crusade.
And I provide awesome synopsis and insight on Crusader Chronicles.
And I host Saturday Matinee Theater and also provide These Nuts jokes.
Hey, I do that.
Me too. So we're fine as it is. What does Delvin do? We should just let him go.
Wait, he hosts Transformers Chronicles. You should know that, Pat. You're on that show. So what do you say? Can we keep him?
Fine, let's do it. Let's do it live. We could have done this with him in the room. It would have made more sense. Why is he outside?
I think we were doing a bit. Okay, let's do this.
The Longbox Crusade Podcast Network is the place to be if you like deep dives into comics of yesteryear with the Longbox Crusade, chronological reading journals with Crusader Chronicles, indexing forgotten TV shows, films, and serials with Saturday Matinee Theater, pitting 2 randomly selected action films against one another in Action Film Face-Off, catalog cataloging the Marvel run of the Transformers comic with Transformers Chronicles, and whatever else the demented minds of Pat, Jarrod, Jason, and Delvin can come up with. If that sounds like it might be for you, be sure to subscribe to The Longbox Crusade on iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much all reputable podcast feeds. Or check us out directly at www.longboxcrusade.com, where we continue our quest to
Welcome back to G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast. Hope you guys like those promos. Let's go ahead and move on to the next segment of this show where we look at G.I. Joe the cartoon.
Yo, Joe! He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra the enemy, fighting to save the day. He never gives up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe! G.I. Joe's there!
G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
He never gives up. He'll stay till the fight's won. G.I. Joe will dare. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I. Joe.
So let's go ahead and G.I. Joe. This episode was entitled The Wrong Stuff. The director was John Gibbs and Terry Lennon. The written by Stanley Ralph Ross with a story by Flint Dill. First aired November the 28th, 1985. And the synopsis from Wikipedia: Cobra captures satellites to create their own television network. G.I. Joe must head into space and destroy the space station before Cobra's propaganda infects everyone in the world. So, Kevin, do you have thoughts on this episode of G.I. Joe? What is that? Is that notes?
Look at that. I got 2 pages of thoughts.
Oh my goodness, yeah, like half a page.
All right. So I was trying to remember this episode just under the title, and it was not what I remembered. But as I was rewatching, I was going, I don't remember this. So it was nice to kind of feel like I was watching it for the first time. So in the beginning, when you hear the radio waves of I'm guessing of all the TV programming that's going on through the satellites, the mystery movie advertised the opening says it's to feature the rhyming cast of Doris Day, Danny Kaye, Fay Ray, and Turnham Bay. I thought that was kind of funny.
I love that.
Father Knows Beast. I had a Werewolf by Night type of flashback. I thought that was kind of cool. Joe Gym Time. That was kind of fun seeing all the Joes in gym. And I love that Scarlett and Lady J were wearing 80s leg warmers. That was pretty cool.
Hot.
Hot. Yes. Very cool. Cobra TV, change the ending of King Kong. Thank you. Love that. Thought that was great too. And Cobra Commander was quoted by saying, quote, "We control the creation of truth." I'm sorry, Cobra Commander. That's been going on a lot longer than you started. So it's still going on strong.
Yeah.
Mr. C is the Timo version of Mr. T. More on that later. And by the way, I just watch Cobra TV any day. I'd pay a subscription to watch Cobra TV. I would love to see that. Again, Cobra's Himalayan Peak Fortress. I swear his architecture, dude, is fantastic. I love all the Cobra, fortresses are great. This was funny. 30 seconds of Cobra commercial time will cost you $5 million, according to the Crimson Twins. That's Super Bowl rates, by the way. The average cost of a 30-second Super Bowl commercial has reached record highs, with ads being sold for around $8 million in 2025. That's up from $7 million in 2024. I remember when it was big news when it was only $1 million. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
I think this is awesome because I also did some research on that for the average cost, not of the Super Bowl, but of a commercial. 30 seconds. A 30-second commercial on network TV can cost anywhere these days from $200,000 to $1 million.
Crazy, right?
But so I was like, that is crazy high prices for $5 million. But per your Super Bowl standard, it's not so bad.
The Likeables, obviously they were poking fun at the Smurfs there. I thought that was funny for that thing. Okay, so I have a tab I wanted you to share there, Aaron. So trivia here. at the end of the episode, Mr. C comes to the Joes asking if he can join the team. In 2018, the Joe Collectors Club released a figure of Mr. C, a Joe under the code name Sergeant Smasher, as part of its 2018 convention gift set. So there you go. There's a picture of him.
Wait,
right
that's
there.
Mr. C?
That's Mr. C, a.k.a. Sergeant Smasher. And it says there on the base that he is standing on, says Sergeant Smasher. So that's supposed to be Mr. C. Just saying.
Interesting.
I thought the Crimson Twins balancing on Cobra Commander's big globe was kind of weird. Weird.
Not hot.
Not hot. No, not hot at all. Sky Strikers with rocket booster. Where is the Joe Space Force? That came in my head there.
Yeah.
Okay, damn. Not only does Cobra have great fortresses, but they have a banging space station. Another thing that came to my mind there.
Uh-huh.
And also, are Dreadnoks a good crew to help man a space station in the long run? Just gonna throw that out there. And
It's
the
in my notes,
Joe's,
too.
yeah, and the Joe spacesuits look like they were sponsored by Stay Puft Marshmallow. The Joe's training, you might appreciate in here, guys. The Joe space training centrifugal machine gave me Moonraker flashbacks.
100%.
Yeah.
And Carnival Nightmare.
Yeah.
The Cobra TV extensive enterprise address, box 22-22, Viper Beach, California 90287. That's an LA area code, by the way. Just saying. I have not found Viper Beach, so
That answers one of the questions from my list. Hang on.
And I love that Wild Bill, after sneaking on the Cobra space station, he finds that he brought his cowboy hat and he has it right back on.
Yeah, of course.
There you go. When they were fighting in Zero G, Wild Bill riding Buzzer in Zero G.
Have it in my notes too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Memorable quotes. I pity the fool who doesn't join Cobra. Cobra Commander saying, I was 6 when I realized I could run society better than the morons who were in charge. I love the scene too where Zartan says, "Fire Will!" And Torch goes, "Oh yeah, who's Will?" And Torch smacks him upside the head. And I found this online. I want to give credit to I don't know if it was IMDb, but the G.I. Joe team, continuity errors. The G.I. Joe team members are inexperienced with space travel, despite having been to space in Pyramid of Darkness miniseries, starting with the Further Adventures of G.I. Joe, which were that predated this episode.
Yep.
Cobra Commander's decision to televise the battle on live television predicted reality television, real-life war reporting, and symbolizes the philosophy of if it bleeds, it leads. Kind of reminds me of a Predator movie as well. And I assume you have the Now You Know segment for this afterwards?
Yeah, the PSA?
Aaron?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, then I won't spoil it here. Of course, one of Cobra's television series is the C Team. The title is reference to the 83 film The Right Stuff, which is long and boring, by the way. Cobra Commander's dance with the globe is a reference to Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator. And for those of you who don't know about sports ball, the Army-Navy game is an annual football game between the armed forces, respective schools, and is highly popular with both military and civilian audiences. And Alpine is desperate to watch Bowling for Dollars. Why isn't that a show? Just saying, right?
I think it used to be, if I'm not mistaken. It just, yeah.
So, Jarrod, sorry for going first if I stole a lot of your thunder there. But,
surprisingly, there's not a ton of overlap, but some.
Good. All right, go.
I'm going to interrupt real quick. Steve Martin, you got to talk about Cobra TV. He says Cobra TV was the preamble to Spike Network.
There you go. I love that.
Jarrod. There you go.
There we go.
Hold on. Is yours on yellow lined paper?
Yes, yellow.
I love that. That's very George Lucas of you. I'm just saying.
Thank you. All right, so it's funny that he mentioned Moonraker because at the very beginning when the Cobra shuttle was going around sort of stealing other satellites, I said, I think this is the plot to You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
There's some James Bond going on here. It ended up not being the plot to You Only Live Twice, but I wrote down I would subscribe to the Cobra TV network if it was a streaming service right now.
Oh, right?
I would subscribe.
That's worth at least $5-10 a month. Right?
Yeah, I'd be on it.
Yeah.
I wrote Cobra Commander was ahead of his time with AI because he talked about how they're like using computers to change the shows and stuff. I was like, he's ahead of his time. I kind of dug the gold and red Cobra emblem that they were using for their network. It was like
yes,
gold on the outside curl, I think, and then red with the horizontal marks, or maybe I have those reversed in my brain. I can't remember. I'm really glad that Senator Foghorn Leghorn stepped up to help the Joes. Couldn't help but notice he talked like Foghorn Leghorn. We both did research on commercial prices, which is funny. I just did average prices. You did Super Bowl. So yeah, it's still like, the fact that it's not unreasonable by today's prices means it was crazy stupid back in the 80s, right? So there you go.
Yes.
This is where we definitely had some overlap. But put a biker gang in charge of your space-based weapon system. Huh? All right. Oh, this is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. The Joes, their first attempt to go up there in their converted Sky Strikers, they actually fail, right? And they fall back to Earth. He's like, if we pop out the oxygen, it'll push us down. Then we can start falling in the atmosphere. Then we can pop chutes. I'm like, that's not a bad plan, I guess. They landed right in front of G.I. Joe headquarters.
I know.
I was like, wow. Do you have any idea how hard that would be? It's incredible.
That's good stuff right there.
You referenced the training sequence, and it wasn't that first one when they were in the gym, but later on when they were training they were actually doing push-ups. And it was like, what is push-ups going to help us with space training or whatever like that? The guy on the far right, I think, was Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man.
Yeah.
It was just a guy in a red jumpsuit. And I was like,
I was wondering, he kind of didn't quite fit there. So yeah.
I was like, I don't know who that is, but I think it might be an in joke that it might be Steve Austin. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
I was going to ask you guys, since you guys from that part of the U.S., if you've ever been to Viper Beach, but that was a resounding no, right?
I'm still looking for that, so I'll get back to you.
I also wrote down Wild Bill Road Buzzer. No further comment. That was one of my favorite things about the episode is,
oh God,
they had that big space fight, and then they were like, the place is blowing up, and we got to get on a space shuttle to escape, and it was like a nail-biting escape, and they finally got away, and I was like, awesome. And then they were like, oh, we got to pick up Ace, and I was like, I completely forgot that Ace was still heading towards us. Like, maybe it was just me, but after all the big stuff that had gone on, I was like, oh, shit, I would have forgot him. I would have just left.
No man left behind, Jarrod.
I have a note that says I need a Mr. C action figure. Now I know that the one kind of exists.
He actually has in his hair a C carved out of it.
Nice.
Very nice.
And I think you may have mentioned this in the show episodes ago, or, I'm not on every episode, but I couldn't help notice when I finished the episode, I watched on YouTube and I hit pause and I went to do something. And when I came back, I noticed on the pause screen, it was just a random screen of credits. It said one of the model designers was Bruce Timm. And I think we might have mentioned that Bruce Timm worked on the show in the past, but I was like, oh, he worked on the design models for the whole show, overall. And I was like, Bruce Timm's that kid's going somewhere. And again, I feel like we might have mentioned he worked on the show before, but I just thought I'd bring it up since I saw it on the screen.
Very nice. And again, I've got a lot of the same notes you guys have. So a lot of the same notes you guys have made. Father Knows Beast. I love that. Mr. C. I Pity the Fool. It's very much Mr. T vibes there. I like that. Some people believe anything. How fitting these days, but I'm not going to go further on that. Cobra's using AI before it was cool by changing the ending of the movie, as we talked about.
I would like to be able to have the power to do that. That would be great. There's several movies I would love to change ending to. Kong was a good start. I'll go with that one there. The End of Contact, I'd start there as well. There's a bunch of films that I would love to go in and do that with.
So Cobra was ahead of the times, as usual.
Star Trek Generations, I wouldn't have killed Kirk. Just throwing some stuff out. There you go.
I don't know if you saw this recently on X. Somebody actually asked about X why they let him kill him at the end of Generations, and he responded with I think it was like a GIF or something of just piles of money. He was like, cash, baby.
They backed the truck up, loaded full of money. He's okay, go for it. And some of the lines, control the creation of truth, world peace to uniformity. Won't go further on that. I like Cobra Commander asking who is piloting the Sky Strikers. Yes, it lets us know, but does it really matter? It doesn't really matter who's piloting them. We know it's G.I. Joe Sky Strikers. Just blow them out of the sky. So again, some technical questions, I guess, for Jarrod. Even with rocket boosters, can the Sky Strikers fly in space?
I'm going to go with a no on that. Aerodynamics in general don't work in space. There's no air to run across the wings.
Yes, I'm watching that, and I'm like, maybe I'm stupid. I'm not a plane guy.
Although I will say it was weird because that was surprisingly like, okay, that makes no sense, but I get what they're trying to do. Have some fun with it, right? But like later on, when they're in 0 G's, Destro like shoots his gun, and and the force of it makes him tumble backwards. And I was like, now, yes, now you get it. Now you get how it works.
And then you guys mentioned free falling from space. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't even play one on TV. Re-entry, would that not be a problem in their suits?
I was wondering. But it's on their front doorstep too.
Didn't Lady J use the term, then we can pop the silk? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that term, Jarrod?
Yeah, it just means to open your parachute.
Yeah. I know, but is that something that's used? In military terms? Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I thought that was kind of cool.
I've heard a lot of movies. I assumed it was a real thing, but yeah, I love Wild Bill digging the spinning machine while Bazooka covered his face and Mutt howled.
That was funny.
On the bouncing chairs, I'm kind of surprised that Wild Bill wasn't holding his hat up like it was a Bronco horse. I expected Wild Bill to, be waving his hat.
Save that for later.
That was just cringy. That was one of the most cringiest things I've seen in G.I. Joe: Real American Hero.
And yeah, we'll put it.
And he rides him to where he knocks his head. He knocks Bud's head against the panel, the glass, whatever panel. That was just funny.
Yeah, I got that notes on that. Yeah, Cobra wants donations sent to Viper Beach, California. Again, I've got notes on that also. Yeah, down here, living in California. I don't think I've ever been to that beach. I've never seen it. I've never looked for it. I've never seen where that's at. So I'm with Kevin on that one. I don't know where Viper Beach is at. I wasn't sure I didn't look at the area code to see where that was at. But yeah, it makes sense to be in the LA area. Yeah, so they sent that unmanned Sky Striker towards the space station as a distraction, and they shot lasers at it. How did the unmanned Sky Striker avoid being blown to bits by the cannon? Mike, after they shot the cannon, it's unmanned. Still, it would have blown up because no one could avoid it. Okay. There was an error. Ripper was wearing Destro's gloves in one scene. If you caught that, there was a scene where they're standing behind Destro, and they both had Destro's gloves on. And then my next note is here. Then he didn't like them as he took them off, it looks like. After this set of Sky Strikers gets destroyed, one of the Dreadnoks said that they must have burned up in the atmosphere, but they didn't last time. So why would they this? Logic. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that the Dreadnoks were drinking some sort of juice instead of grape soda. I wanted them to be drinking grape soda. As was mentioned previously, I love Wild Bill riding Buzzer like a horse. Made me laugh.
That's nightmare fuel right there.
And my note here is if Cobra was smarter, they would have taken both shuttles, actually stranding the Joes on the station instead of leaving them a means to escape. And also, I forgot to write it down, but I was thinking the same thing that I think Kevin mentioned, that they're acting like this is the first time up in space on a space station when, they previously did that in the Pyramid of Darkness. They should be experienced to it by now. I don't know why they seem so confused. Well, they're Dreadnoks, so I guess that would explain that. But
it explains a lot. There you go.
But yeah, I spent a few clips in the slide. Cobra Commander on the talk show, and I love Cobra Commander's, ranting and raving like he does. Which again, I don't know if he's lying here or if this was a retcon. But he talks about how even age of 6, he knew he could do better than the fools in charge. We'll find out later on in the movie, which we've talked about previously, and we'll talk about again. But yeah, he was actually he was from Cobra Law at that time, so he wouldn't have thought that. So, but again,
you didn't say it right.
I'm sorry. Better.
Thank you.
And yeah, you mentioned this. One of you guys mentioned the twins on the bouncing ball. Kind of a throwback to their first introduction from the circus. I thought that was a nice little throwback to their first appearance in the comic. The question I had for Jarrod there, the Sky Strikers in space, how, why, how? There are a couple of scenes I picked from when they're on the spinning machine. Yeah, Wild Bill with that look of glee on his face. Meanwhile, look like Alpine's chewing on a piece of rope or something. Like, oh crap.
I think they even had like a cover girl. I think made an appearance in that moment too. I was like, oh, there's cover girl. You'll see her a lot.
Yep. Again, the Sky Strikers in space. They got the rocket boosters to help them fly in space. I still don't understand the logistics there. And then we got Mr. C showing up at the very end, wanting to join the G.I. Joe team. And Duke makes his great comment, only if you can pass the physical. End scene. Like, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, that was G.I. Joe, the cartoon. We've talked about before these cartoons. Again, I pointed out some of the logistics, the flaws in logic on the show. The cartoon had a lot of that, but nonetheless, we still love them. I mean, it's what a lot of us got started in G.I. Joe with. So, even with all its flaws, it was still great. Do you guys have any other thoughts?
I just wanted to mention when I was watching this, realizing, because I always look back on the show going, man, there was a lot of episodes. Technically, there was like around 80 episodes plus, the other mini-series ones. I always felt like there was so many, but we're actually coming towards the end of technically season 1, because this is episode 49, then there's 50, and then season 2 begins. Man, those are the good old days. It seemed like they just went on forever.
There's like 54, 55 episodes in the first season.
Yeah. Am I alone on that?
No. I keep thinking it went longer than it did, but yeah, it was only 2 seasons. It's just, we had so many episodes during the season. It seemed like.
I remember like cartoon creators were trying to get out a high volume because I think you needed X amount of episodes to get syndicated.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was the ultimate goal. There's a lot of cartoons that were like, have like 60 episodes in one season. It's like, what?
Of course, it makes sense that it was, unlike TV shows, which was on, once a week, G.I. Joe was on daily, every weekday.
Yeah.
So, of course, there were more episodes to help fill in, the season. So, I thought the same thing that it seems, it ran, 50 some odd episodes for the first season. And it seems like it went a lot longer than just 2 seasons, but that, probably because it was so many episodes.
Man,
always in rerun.
I'm going to tangent this again just because that's what I do.
Yeah, go for it.
I can distinctly remember being in first grade and a kid in my class telling me like, man, I can't wait to get home today to watch the next episode of G.I. Joe. And I was like, there's a what now? He's like, yeah, they just started a G.I. Joe cartoon. And I was like, I think I was only in, again, first grade. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just remember, I'm sorry, you have to drop a bleep there, but like, I just remember being completely mind blown at the concept. Like, wait, I can watch, and we had a little 13-inch black and white TV in the bedroom. Me and my brother did. And I went home and
so did I had one of those too.
And I watched, I was like, my brain, I can't believe that there's a cartoon on TV of my favorite toy. Like my brain couldn't handle it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you're making me feel old, Jarrod. I was like 12 or 13 when the cartoon started. So
I forgot you're a little older than me. That's right.
Yeah, a little older. See, I was 12 or 13 when the cartoon started. So I was higher than first grade. But anyway, great time. Yeah, back in the 80s, that was, I know you got stations just full of cartoons nowadays, but and maybe it's because I'm old, but it doesn't seem to hold a candle to, G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, and Humanoids, all this stuff we had. And it just seemed more special. Yeah, after school, you had like 2 hours of cartoons. And then on Saturdays, you had Saturday morning with cartoons.
Yeah, there was something special about appointment viewing. Like it was an event. Like I'm going to be home at this time because I'm going to watch, this.
Yes.
And I challenge you to think in your brain, when was the last time I had an appointment viewing television show? I've thought about it, and for me, it's Smallville in 2001.
Yeah, probably. I get there. Yeah, because everything now streaming. I don't even have regular cable anymore. I've got all my streaming services. Because
there's really no such thing as appointment viewing anymore, and it's kind of sad in a way. It's convenient to have streaming, but sad that you don't have that experience. I guess you still get it for like a sports event because that's the Super Bowl or whatever. So there's that. But
yeah, I'm not a sports guy really. So yeah, everything.
Trust us. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah,
it's a thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There's those weirdos out there looking at Kevin.
Hey, I'm just as bad as he is with my Auburn sports. I watch it. So,
but yeah, there's shows I look forward to watching. But yeah, it's I got an hour. I'll put a show on right now and see instead of having to plan out. I remember back growing up, every week I get the TV guide. Okay, Monday I want to 8:00 is happy days. I want to be
even when your newest episode of your favorite streaming episode, if it's one of those that drops weekly,
right?
It drops that day, but you don't have to go on exactly when it drops off. Unless you want to avoid spoilers like the new Star Wars show or Marvel show or whatever. But yeah, it's like I get around to it. At least I know that it's out, you know.
Yeah,
So
no, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's you can watch it any time. So yeah, they're like Jarrod said, there's not that appointment viewing where you need to set aside time. Remember on Saturdays when the new season starts, I did get the TV guide out. Okay, on NBC, I want to watch this show. Then at 8:30, I'm going to switch over to CBS and watch this show. I'll watch this show next. ABC's got God, which one do I? These two shows on the same time. Which one I want to watch? It's a different experience. And for any of the younger audience that may be watching this, yeah, while you do have whatever you want to watch at the drop of a hat, it loses something not to have that planning and figuring out when you need to be in front of your TV to watch the show. And oh crap, I'm out home. I'm going to miss it. Hopefully they show it in a rerun.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's one thing about the G.I. Joe cartoon. I like series that, lead one to another. I love that kind of stuff. But G.I. Joe, yeah, I'll mention this here again in a couple episodes, but yeah, G.I. Joe, yeah, you could watch almost any episode at any time without having to watch a previous episode to know what's going on.
Right.
They're all mostly one and done for the most part. So, yeah. Anyways, so unless you guys have any other thoughts on the cartoon or the comic book, and as Kevin mentioned earlier, let's go ahead and move.
Look, the storm knocked down that big wire.
Hey, let's jump our bikes over it.
Now, we better move it off the road.
No, you better leave that power line right where it is. There's enough electricity there to fry an elephant.
We didn't think it was dangerous.
You'd have found out too late. Remember, never play around electrical wires or you could be playing with fire.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Body massage.
Is it just me? I feel like I've seen that so many times, like it was repeated after other episodes.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. There were some episodes didn't have them. They only had PSA. So yeah, they did repeat some of these. And then I'm sure in syndication they probably switched them around and didn't play them with the original episodes, I'm sure.
I was a really stupid kid. I'm not a very smart adult either. But if I saw a live wire laying on the road, my first thought never would have been, I'm going to ride my bike over it. What? Even when I was that age.
Not unless you got double dared, then you're out of luck. So.
And even then, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
I wonder because of my own limitations, and maybe just the people I know. I think I know a couple of guys that probably would have. I even know. I know those guys that would. Oh, once we do, jump over that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I know a couple of those guys that would have done that. So it's not as far fetched as you might think.
It'd be the exact same thing to jump over a rope. And a rope's not going to kill us.
True story.
Man.
What's the challenge in that?
You may have been a dumb kid, Jarrod. At least you weren't that. There were kids dumber than you out there.
I'll tell you what.
And some of these dumb kids didn't make it to adulthood.
Wow.
They're dumb kids. But anyway, it's going to get dark.
So anyway, I was 6. I knew that I was smarter than all these idiots that were in charge.
You do a much better job. And from the chat, Steve Martin pipes in. Only a chef like Roadblock would know how much electricity it would take to fry an elephant. I love that. Thank you for that comment, Steve. I like that. Yes, I didn't even think about that, but yes, Roadblock would know that information. So anyways, yeah, so I'm going to make things more interesting for people on YouTube. I'm going to try to play those PSAs when there is one on the show like this at the very end.
By the way, do you think Cobra Television would have bought advertising rights or supported the Man Show? I feel like that's one of the things that, Spike TV, would definitely.
As Steve said earlier, it was the preamble to the Spike Network. Yes.
As I said earlier, I would subscribe to their channel.
I totally would. Yeah. Can you imagine just getting a Dreadnought, reality TV series?
Yes, that would be sweet.
Yes. That's who do I write to?
Such good stuff. Print that money.
Yeah. I guess that's going to bring us to, I'm looking at my notes. Yes, that brings us to the end of the episode. Jarrod, if people want to hear more from you, as we've talked about, you got your entire network empire over there, raking in the big bucks. Where can people go to listen to more of you?
Well, if you want to hear more of me and my friends, guys I podcast with.
As I said, friends, I realized it was probably the wrong word.
Some guys I know. We're over at the Long Box Crusade. We're at the Long Box Crusade. If you search Long Box Crusade on any podcatcher, YouTube, social media, whatever. You're going to find us. We have lots of different shows. The most interesting ones to this audience would probably be G.I. Joe Chronicles, where we are going through the Devil's Due run and through a comedy of errors, special missions. But hey, that's how it goes. You get a double dose. But yeah, it's me and Pat and Jason Delvin, a bunch of other folks, and we got a lot of stuff over there. But yeah, we definitely also have G.I. Joe content if you're into that. Delvin's actually running Transformers Chronicles, by the way, which is very adjacent to what you talk about here. So if you guys want a dose of that, that's one of our more popular shows, which I still to this day haven't figured out why. Because I'm not on it. But anyways.
I give Delvin, because I want to be looking here soon at the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover.
Yeah. And of course, if you want to chat with me, I'm at Yard Sale Artist X, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist.
Kevin, if people want to hear from you, where can they go?
Well, I just recently guested on one of Jarrod's podcasts, the Indiana Jones comic book. He's doing each issue, and he likes to record them well in advance so you can hear me in 2028 in June, if I remember correctly.
That's about right.
So, yeah. But that was a lot of fun. Make sure, I think it was issue 19, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So, my name is Kevin. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on all of the socials. I'm the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, and we have a bunch of shows that will tickle any of your fandoms: Star Trek, Star Wars, Highlander. We also do movie podcasts, and one of the ones that we do is Couch Potato Theater, and we have a limited run of a special Couch Potato Theater movie podcast called Be Kind and Rewind. Is there a movie that you hated when it came out and maybe popular culture did as well, but then as time went on, you kind of came around on it? Well, that's what it's called, Be Kind and Rewind. We just released our first episode with the 2011 Green Lantern film. And whether your opinion changed or not, some of us opinions have. And the next one we're going to be doing is John Carter 2011. We're going to talk about John Carter for Be Kind Rewind. Make sure you check that out. And also one of the other ones we do is Time Warp, where we look at an entire year of movies, cover each month of those movies and all the culture around them. And this year we are discussing 1990. All the movies that came out in 1990 are celebrating their 5th anniversary. So there you go. And by the way, this is March. One of the movies that came out in March was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Green Lantern, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it had a lot of issues. I remember.
We talk about that. Trust me. Just to clarify, too, we talk about the extended version, which added a little bit more to the story. So if you get a chance, rewatch the extended version and hit us up. Let us know what you think.
So we do a show on Longbox called Pop Culture Posicast, where we take something that's kind of a piece of pop culture that's kind of poo-pooed and see, does it really deserve it? And we did Green Lantern last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Pat and I are the hosts, and we both came away going, this is better than we thought it.
Yeah,
it's more entertaining than you think it is.
Yeah, especially when you see what's happened since. And we asked the question too, like, was there a world where that movie takes off? Because that was supposed to be the relaunch of the DCU. That was supposed to be that was supposed to be the Iron Man of the DCU. Can you imagine where that movie takes off? We have 3 Lantern films with Ryan, and then they use the other Lanterns for other films, and we don't have a Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, my hot take was upon rewatching, I was like, I actually like this better than pretty much all of Phase 4 Marvel. That was my hot take. Sorry if you're a Marvel person, this is not for me. I'm not bagging on you if you like it.
You got something there.
Phase 4 Marvel, but again, I used to enjoy Green Lantern when it came out. I was saying, a gal from work when it came out, she's like, have you seen Green Lantern yet? Not yet. I'm going to go watch it.
It's worth a listen or a watch on YouTube. We're at Fandom Podcast and it was on YouTube because my friend Norman, who came up with the idea of Be Kind Rewind, he talks about how he was like Dark Norman when it came to this movie. And he talks about how much he freaking hated this movie. And things changed when he saw the extended cut. So yeah, make sure you check it out. It's a good listen and a good watch on YouTube, Fandom Podcast Network.
But, I had a gal that I worked with say, you're going to hate the Green Lantern movie. It's horrible. No, it wasn't that bad. So, and then the other one you had, John Carter. I really enjoyed that one. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I
really good on 3D, by the way. Really good on 3D.
I've never seen it in any fashion, so I need to check that one out.
Yeah,
it's a movie that came out and watched it. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people. I'm not familiar with the character. I know he is a character, but I'm not familiar with his
horrible marketing on this film, which just killed it. So yeah.
And for myself, again, I'm on headcast.headspeaks.com. I finally pulled up the YouTube. It's youtube.com/@g.i.joe_headcast. You can join us here normally the fourth Sunday of the month. Also the third Friday of every month. I'm doing usually my unboxing review show. This last Friday, we ended up doing an episode of Bravo Team. So I didn't get behind on that. Looking at Special Missions number 6. Thank you very much for Jarrod for joining me. I know it was a late notice on that, but I appreciate you being able to join me.
No problem.
And again, I've got my other shows. I've got my Head Speaks, which again is anything geek related I talk about on there. I've talked about Power of the Atom. I've talked about some other books. I covered the Armageddon 2001 crossover. Again, as I do, and thank you guys for mentioning these other ideas you have, because I'll eventually steal them. I've also got a segment on there, retrospective of the 80s, where I look back at stuff from the 80s, because again, that's my time frame. I'm stuck in the 80s. I listen to 80s music, 80s rap.
What's that like?
You would know nothing. I can't. If you're not there, Kevin, I can't explain it to you. And I know you've got nothing to do with the 80s.
I was born in '97, so I don't know.
Yeah, no. yeah. You're a young man. You're the youngest of all. Anyways, but yeah, be sure to join us. I've got my other shows, the Starman Adventure Show. Actually, the next episode is episode 50. That'll be ending that show. Looking at the last two issues of Starman, the Will Payton book. Task Force X, where I look at the Suicide Squad book. That one's going to be ending here in a couple of months. The currently on hold is the Starbright Project, where the wife and I look at the Quantum Leap TV series. Again, we looked at both the original when we started at, then we stopped to look at the new one. Now we're going back to the old one. Long story there, but again, my daughter's band and all that is kind of put that on hold for right now. But yeah, it's all available at headcast.headspeaks.com. Also, I say on that still shows up there also is my G.I. Joe, the Energon Protocols, as I mentioned earlier, where we play the Renegade Studios G.I. Joe game, and I play it as a podcast. Because, as I've said before, and I'm sure you both are very familiar with this, I have an addiction. They both look up surprised, like, well, what you talking about? I only do one show. Yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this month, me insulting my guests. And
we do shows inside of shows, remember? Like on the last one, you were like, we cut this part out and make a whole show.
Yes.
We just did like a little mini Green Lantern cast. You just cut that out and make a show out of it.
That's why I like these little sidebars, because never know. I can pull it out and I can throw it in somewhere else when I need it. So thank you guys very much for giving me more content. And I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. Again, thank you for those that are watching live. I appreciate this. And those who listen to the podcast, like I said, I forgot to update this slide, but I want to give special thanks to Kevin and Jarrod for joining me on the show. And again, if you're just listening to the podcast on the on a podcatcher, definitely come and check us out as a live show, because again, you miss the slides, you miss some of the outtakes that may get dropped on the floor, or maybe pulled out for another show later on. You never know what's going to happen. But until next month we're looking at the continuation of the Barovia storyline. We'll see if Clutch and Roadblock or whoever goes and rescues our missing Joes. But until then, remember, knowing is half the battle.
Yo,
Joe.
G.I. Joe, a Real American Headcast, is available monthly on iTunes, Stitcher, and at headspeaks.com. All characters and stories are owned and trademarked by their respective owners. We claim no ownership other than our opinions. All audio and images are used for entertainment purposes and falls under fair use. We make no money from this headcast. For more of the monthly G.I. Joe, check out the IDW series. For the stories we're covering, look for the comics and trade paperbacks. Let us know what you think. Send us an email letting us know your thoughts. Joe's dismissed.